Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Fleeting Thoughts, an Altered TCG podcast, part of the Main Deck podcast family. I'm Dan.
And I'm Jordan. And today we are going to be going over the Gen Con experience for Altered. Now, sadly, as much of you guys probably know, I was unable to make it, but Dan was there to show the main deck glory of Altered. And I'm excited to hear, because we haven't actually talked about what happened there, and I've been deliberately not asking you about it, so I could have all the information here, like first experience hearing what happened. I saw a few pictures here and there of some stuff that happened, but for the most part, I'm kind of in the dark. So I'm excited also with the audience to kind of like be enlightened on all the cool stuff that happened.
Jordan, you missed out. You missed out. That's the truth.
I'm very sad about it.
I guess before we jump right into things, we don't have a lot of news or anything. Kickstarters are being delivered. Stores are starting to get them in the US. We'll talk just a little bit about that probably towards the end, but we're right at the cusp. This is the cusp of everything happening. Like, we just scheduled our weeklies at our store.
Same. Ours got is next Monday.
Ooh, wow, nice. I think we're gonna start in like a week and a few days. We're gonna be doing Tuesday nights, and I think we're gonna start a week from next Tuesday, just trying to buy a little more time for people who backed it to get their stuff potentially. So we'll see. It may be pushing another week, or maybe just gonna run it for whoever bought stuff, because our store did get their product in. But yeah, it's here. It's about to happen. We're going to be starting a little early, even though I want it not battle pass, but it's kind of like a battle pass. The OP stuff doesn't start until September, but yeah, people are just pumped, and I'm super pumped. Before we jump into Gen Con, I just want to mention, thank you all for your patience with the lore series. Again, I've been getting a bunch of comments, people saying thank you for sticking with it. I'm very happy to read that people were happy to have it there. And also, we've had a lot of people being very patient as we've resolved. You'd think switching the podcast over to a new platform wouldn't be as difficult as it was, but we successfully did it with Grand Archive now, and we're just finishing this one. I think when you have this, when this is up, I think it should be available on our regular podcast networks again. I will do a whole thing talking about what happened and why it got so complicated, but it got a little out of my control for a chunk of this. Anyway, should be good now. Been kind of wild, but so thank you all for that patience with that, and the constant comments reminding me to double check on things and make sure that everything's going through. It's been a bit more behind the scenes than you might realize. But for now, if you enjoy this podcast, as a reminder, go ahead and leave a comment, leave it a like, do all that fun stuff. Really do appreciate all that. Let's talk about Gen Con. Gen Con, Jordan, was the first time with the game sort of available in people's hands. People could play it, demo it, and go and actually play in an event with product they own, scanning cards into the app, doing all that stuff. We were doing the thing, right? It was the atmosphere at the Altered tables, the demo tables, and at the sort of the Asmodee, the ANA tournament section in Gen Con, in the tournament area, basically the gigantic room where it's just tables and tables and tables of tournaments. The atmosphere there was really cool, very exciting, almost electric with people's excitement for the game. There were so many people playing at these events who literally had never played the game, had just for the draft events, at least, where they had to sign up in advance, they knew the game. They had played demos. The people I talked to were mostly I played it a little bit online, but that's it. They might have played Exalted or BGA or something. And then at the faction event, a lot of people I talked to were I don't know, I just demoed it. It looked cool. Came over here and played. But it was just super fun to see people start to figure things out. And especially at the draft tables where people were drafting for the first time when I had already had a little taste of it. So I got to like sit down and kind of tell everyone, well, here's what I figured out from the one draft I did. Take it or leave it. Here's like kind of a couple bits of wisdom. By the way, what I told people was, you should don't wait too long to pick heroes. Like if you see a hero that you like for your deck, don't assume you're going to see another one later or something. Just grab it. And then don't lock yourself into all three factions right away. Try to do as few as possible. Like pack one, you should do one and maybe two factions. Like pretty hard to do just one. So like try and like do one kind of main faction and start to dabble in other ones to figure out what's coming to you. Then by pack two, you kind of have an idea. You start to see like more stuff from the other player next to you. You can maybe be in two factions then, and try to not really be in your third faction until packs 3 and 4. I think that's been pretty effective. I ended up with a couple really cool decks we'll talk about in a little bit. But it was really fun. I think my biggest takeaway from the weekend, it was just so fun to talk to all these people who were just discovering something that we've been exploring a lot and get to share that excitement of discovery again with them. So I guess I'm going to start with my thesis statement. That was what was really fun about the weekend. So Gen Con in general is always just an insane weekend of debauchery. It's nonsense. It's 4 days of just packed schedules, stuff to see, stuff to do, stuff to buy, hanging out with people, getting to meet so many people. I talked to a number of people from a number of the games we cover who just wanted to say hi. It was love doing that all the time. And I got to meet with a few other people, a few other content creators for the game and stuff, and actually get to meet them in person, which was super fun. And I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But the big event of the weekend for Altered fans was just the fact that, I mean, I think there were two things that were really going on that weekend. One is the first time you got to actually get product outside of getting lucky and getting your Kickstarter delivered if you live in Europe or something. For the US, it was largely our first packs. And Loki's scavenger hunt was the other really weird and exciting thing that they ran. So Gen Con, for every game, for everything, they're always going to have like different things that were kind of the main focus of the weekend. For a lot of people, it was this very mysterious scavenger hunt, if you played Altered, that Loki Knox, community manager, had announced. And this is just wild. It was like he was using Discord and Instagram to post vague hints about where he was. He would just be in weird. So the first day, Thursday, we got there and we knew we were scavenger hunt. The first thing we were like, okay, first thing we're going to do, go to Altered booth. We're going to talk to them, figure out how we can get started on the scavenger hunt so we can get this playmat, because that was the reward. If you managed to get Loki, you got a special Loki token. It's a custom made token with custom art of Loki, which is really sweet. And they're like, he numbered them all. So I did get one. I'll spoil it. Mine's number like 24, I think. And then you also got a playmat, which featured really beautiful Muna artwork of sort of the Tasia and Naura in the forest. And it says it has Indianapolis 2024 printed on it. There's just 100 of those printed, and that's it. So that was a very cool prize. I do know of one person who got it and sold it for $400, I think, right away, like just immediate. So clearly is something that people are interested in getting. And so we started by going to try Fi Loki, and we talked to the people at the Altar booth, and they said, "Oh, we don't know where he is." Like, oh, good. And we then like split up, and a few of us went to the OP tables and talked to someone there who said, "Yeah, I think he was going to like Sith yoga this morning." We were like, "What?" What? How are we supposed to?
Now,
Be
was
like,
that
yeah,
code, or was there an actual like Gen Con
no.
event called Sith Yoga?
He went to Sith yoga. He went to dark side force aligned Sith yoga. I don't know. I don't know. Loki's a Sith fan. I learned that this weekend. Actually, we talked a little bit about Kylo Ren too.
Based.
Yeah, true. Big Kylo Ren fan. So we ended up learning he wasn't going to really even start things until like around 10:30 or 11 that morning. So we were just kind of like wasting our time screwing around, but it ended up just being this hunt throughout the weekend for various people in our group to try to. We learned that he was posting like his little vague hints, and then you had to go find him, and then sometimes you had to just find him. Sometimes you had to like answer trivia questions in the Discord and stuff, and it was like ended up being like a typing contest because you had to answer them in the Discord specifically. And he did this one weird thing one day where like he has this big gold chain that has a Loki card on it, and he passed it to this like literal child who was there, and then gave him these some Loki cards with the instructions of go somewhere, and then when someone finds you, give them a card. And the kid just took a card and handed it to someone he was standing right next to, who then also took the chains and did the exact same thing and just handed out. They just like circled around a few cards there, and Loki was like, all right, I'm done with this. You guys are not doing this in a fun way. So it was very Loki. It was very chaotic. It was unpredictable, capricious, right? And how to actually acquire the cards to get the playmats was a mystery, a moving target that changed day after day and hour after hour, basically. But he ultimately gave around 25 out each day. Yeah, so in our group, I think I got one, Jason got one, main deck Jason got one, and Corgan, I believe, is the only other one who got one. He's another member of our group who's
Let's go.
Next to you and me in this crew. I think he's the next most excited person about Altered. So it was really cool that he was able to get it.
I feel like Cole
But
might
as I was
be up there too.
Cole is pretty excited too. Yeah, that's true. But that's true. He did a big Kickstarter investment too. I forgot. As I was telling Jason though, Jordan, and I'm going to say it publicly here. I think if you were there, I think you would have got one too.
Oh yeah, that would have been project number one for me. I love like random events like that. Like I would have been like, don't bother me. I'm looking for Loki today. Until I get him, nothing else is getting done.
Yeah, it would have been a lot of fun. We really missed having you there for your sense of humor and what you just add to the emotion of the group and everything, and because you missed out on a lot of really crazy fun stuff. So that said, I will now lord my Loki playmat over you, my Luna playmat over you for the foreseeable future, so you can look forward to that. That'll be really fun. Sorry, and by the way, listeners, this is very much going to be the Dan cast because Jordan was playing Grand Archive, and we don't need to talk about that on this podcast. So, yeah. Jordan, I don't know if you saw this announcement though. This was something that was announced during Gen Con as well. So I'm going to double check and make sure, see if you didn't catch it. But another announcement was made about a special recognition that they were giving to community members. So it looks, based on your response, I think maybe you weren't aware, but they announced the Musubi program.
Nice.
And the Musubi program is a yearly program that is going to award people for engaging with Altered on a variety of different levels. Actually, you know what? I don't know all of them off the top of my head, so I'm going to really quick just pull it up here so I can give you the exact awards. So in the Musubi program, we have Ouroboros Awards, which are the fan artists, so people who make artwork, illustrations. Spindle Awards, the community builders who are growing the community in different ways. Category awards for content creators, create online content, obviously. Monolith awards for lore keepers, people who know and spread the lore,
That's
which is
us.
interesting. Uh,
Not quite.
uh,
That's not our forte. We dabbled.
As everybody here knows, we did our best.
We scratched we're good for those intro lore fiends. They want to scratch the surface of everything.
Yes. The Foundry Awards for cosplayers, and the Haven Awards for special recognition for community members. So they announced these different categories, and they announced 2 people for each one, except they had 3 people for the special recognition. And I am very happy to let everyone know that I am chosen to be a Musubi for 2024 in the Haven Awards for special recognition.
Let's go.
For which they cited, thank you. They cited the Fleeting Thoughts, starting the Fleeting Thoughts podcast, which again was the first podcast for Altered TCG. And it'll be the last one too. We're going to be here till the very end. I swear. We're going to go out first and last. Which hopefully it's not, because hopefully we just die and Altered is still going on. That would be ideal. No, we'll have someone carry it on. Obviously, have someone carry the torch.
We'll pass it on.
It'll be fine. So yeah, first and last. And they also mentioned the creation of the Facebook community, which I had some people asking, like, well, why aren't you a content creator? Like, well, number one, I think above all else was the New Year's Awards when I picked Star Wars Unlimited over Altered. After mulling it over for a long time and barely being able to decide. I always point that out. But no, the content creators chosen are very focused on Altered. It makes perfect sense. Like, they are, like, we're spread out a little bit more here.
We cover a handful of games, yeah.
And I do a lot of stuff. And like, I made the Facebook group, and we just built up the Marketplace Facebook group as well this past week and everything. So I do have this is the second time I'm saying this in a podcast we're recording tonight, but I have my hands in multiple cookie jars for Altered as well. So that was really exciting. So I wanted to mention that because really just want to shout out the company. I really appreciate, very honored to receive that award. It is, it means so much. It is super, super exciting. And to be with all these people. And I got to actually meet in person several of the other Musubi this weekend. Nestor and Pilgrim was one of them, and who was in the Lore Keepers Award, of course.
Yeah,
because we mention them in every single lore episode as well, so makes sense. And he was such an awesome dude. So I'm going to tell my Nestor and Pilgrim story right away, which is, so I played ultimately in 3 events over the weekend for Altered, which I know I would have liked more, but I had to do events for multiple games, and I had to do stuff on the floor, and I had to meet people, and I had a busy schedule. So I did 2 drafts and 1 faction event, and it was the faction event in which I had the most interaction with Nestor and Pilgrim, because we sat down and they started asking everyone what faction they wanted to play. And I was here with some other people from our group. I was like, you guys should pick Ortis. Ortis was winning the most, for sure. They had won every single, this was like Saturday morning. And Ortis had won every single faction event so far. Okay. And just straight up, starter deck meta alone, just raw starter decks, Ortis is the best deck.
Mm-hmm.
The second best is Bravos or Muna or Axiom on a good day, but more often than not Bravos. Muna and Axiom can maybe get there. Lyra drags behind those just a little bit. Honestly,
oh really? I thought it would have been a little bit bigger.
I'll talk about that. Just a little bit, and then Izmir's at the bottom. That's kind of how that is. So, yes, over the weekend, Ortis was winning. Bravos was taking second. Muna was fighting. Axiom was fighting a little bit. And Izmir was in the tank. And Lyra was doing its best. And that's when we were picking these. And I talked to Nestor and Pilgrim, and he says, yeah, I'm doing Lyra because I really want Lyra to win. And I know they won't win. He's like, make sure I know they're not going to win, but I want to try. And I was like, all right, good for you. I didn't win any packs in my drafts. So, which I'll talk about that in a sec too. So, I want to try and win some packs. So I'm probably going to just tell my friends to do Ortis and join in those. And they're calling out the factions, and they go through everything except Ortis is at the end, I think, and maybe Bravos was right before that. And they're having everyone just raise their hand. What do you want to play? And they call out Lyra, and I see Nestor shoots his hand up, and like 2 other people do. And I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm like, it's time to make a decision. Lyra, let's go. So I jump in, and then a couple other people jump in, and Nestor gets super excited. And I'm like, yeah, we're good. Let's do this. Whatever. I love this. We got a dream. Let's go. So we get the group together, and the first thing I do is we got to talk to the group, because here's the thing about Lyra. Lyra is, on the surface level, the random chaos, nothing you do matters faction in the starter deck, because the dice rolling and everything. When you actually learn the game, Lyra is one of, and arguably the most forward-thinking required faction. It is so complicated to actually play it well and correctly in a game. Because the reason I always tell everyone is because the main reason is because everything has a 0 on it for the most part. And zeros are in Altered. Altered is not a game where you're going to win any points for like destroying your opponent or anything. You just need to win by 1 point in the correct things and shut your opponent out in the correct biomes every single turn. So having a 0 is a liability if you don't play around it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the group together. We're like, here's what you got to do. Okay. Once you start flipping map tiles, you have to look ahead. You have to think about where you're going to need which stats. If there's a water mountain ahead, try to save your water mountains for standing there, and try to anchor things when that happens kind of randomly, but think about the anchoring potential for things. You're going to resupply things. You got to use those resupplies well, and never, ever, ever, ever roll for Nevenka if it won't help you win and will only cause you to lose. If you roll a 1, never do that. It has to help you win and be important to go for it.
True. That's generally the last thing I do in the turn cycle, is like wait until the board is set and it's my only option to be like, okay, is this +1 or anchor going to change anything this turn or next turn? If the answer is no, you just don't risk it, because you might lose board state otherwise.
Exactly right. I told that to them too. I said, don't use Nevenka till the very end. Use it, then pass is usually what you need to do. So we went through everything, and we had, I'm going to blank a little bit on the exact order and how things went. We ended up having we had some new players on our team, but we had a couple of damn ringers on our team. Like, these guys were kicking butt. They were doing pretty well. We had a round against Izmir where we kind of crushed them pretty well. We had a couple more hit or miss rounds against like Axiom, where it was a little more split. Bravos, I think, was a little more split. But we were surprising the scorekeepers. We were actually winning more games than Lyra had won the entire weekend. In fact, I think they said one tournament, Lyra won 1 game. I mean, not 1 round. I mean, 1 player. If I remember that, maybe I made this up, but I swear they told me in 1 faction tournament, 1 player won 1 single Lyra game for the entire faction.
That's rough.
Was
the faction just like that one person, or I guess it's hard to tell too, because like a lot of the players, like you said, were probably like had never heard of the game until 5 minutes before they played and did a demo.
Now, I might be exaggerating something. I might be misremembering. That's what I remember in my head being told. Perhaps the story was a little less dramatic than that, because that does sound pretty unlikely, but we were doing well, is all I know. Okay, we were doing pretty good, to the point where as we approached the final rounds, our fourth round was against Ortis. Second to last round was against Ortis. And everyone goes, well, here it goes. Okay. We had only one game loss against Ortis across all of our, I think it was 6 players. I think it was 6 players in Lyra. I think we went 5-1. And the one loss, Nestor and Pilgrim, which was hilarious. That was so funny. He felt so, he's like, no, I gave it up. But he was so happy too, because that's the fun thing about these faction events, which is why we're going to be running more faction stuff like locally. This is so much fun to have this like teamwork component and like rooting for your team, your allies. Like, come on guys, we got to win. Like, what are our strategies? What are our tricks? And that round upset the tournament, right? Like at that point, everyone's like, Lyra can top, actually. Lyra might actually top this time. They just have to go against Muna. Muna was our final faction. Ortis was still doing well, don't get me wrong. They had probably like 5-1 all the other rounds, but they got kind of trash canned in our round, which felt really good. I was playing my heart out. I was like trying to be in the zone. I was using all of my Exalted gameplay video experience. I was like, time to hone in and be a Lyra master. And if I remember right too, that Ortis fight was really, really close. It was like down to the wire and I barely pulled it out. They were really starting to claw back. But oh yeah, the fatal play. There was a fatal turn where they played Ortis Monolith, the 5-cost landmark, to get way too many troopers to get everything to get a buff counter on everything, and to get a boost counter. Wrong game. To get a boost counter on everything. And I had played something cheap to buffer the turn, and then I was like, there's a chance this turn they play Monolith, so I'm gonna do this. I played like a Hathor or something, cost 2, put it down there, like, all right, let's see. And they played it, and I went, I have 1 card in reserve, 3 mana open, Pain Prison it. Pain Prison it to the top of their deck, which meant I think I might have had something anchored from a lucky roll too. I think I double progressed that turn and blanked their turn. And I was like, that's like the play you need against Ortis to like actually be able to close it out. I'm not going to lie. In some of these games too, I had some pretty clutch Nevenka rolls. I mean, I had that anchor saved me, kind of stuff happening. So it happens. So we get to the final round, Muna. And that was actually the fight of the day though. The Muna fight was insane. I'm playing as this opponent, clearly had played like other card games enough. And actually, surprisingly, a number of the players I played this weekend were Star Wars Unlimited players who were saying, yeah, I just wanted to check it out. I'm like, nice. Good call. So I think if I remember right, I might be mixing up. I remember my opponent here was one of those like Star Wars Limited like tournament players who was like checking in on his friends who were playing in like the major event and doing well, the full day events for Star Wars Unlimited. So like I knew this guy was good. Like it was definitely a skilled TCG player. So we had this brawl where we got to the very end of the game and we go into sudden death.
Oh, that doesn't happen very often.
We go to the tiebreaker turn, and we're in this tiebreaker turn and playing everything, and we play everything out, and all I have left is Nevenka activation. And I sit here and I do the math, and I'm looking at this. Keep this in mind. This is the huge thing to build this all up. If we win, if I win this game and we win enough games, I hadn't really checked on everyone else, but if we win enough games, we place like top 3 for sure. And we knock Muna out, where we had already we had pushed Muna ahead because we dumpstered Ortis so badly. and then we can knock Muna out and actually take top 2 or 3 spot based on how well we did. So there were huge stakes on this one, up to 2 booster packs in stakes for everyone.
And those are Kickstarter booster packs, I imagine. So they're
nope, they were retail, baby.
Those are rare right now.
They're rare. So the stakes were high. So we're in this tiebreaker turn, and I do the math. My opponent's clearly trying to do the math right now too. I'm like, okay, so this is what it comes down to. I have to roll the die on Nevenka. I have an Asmodeus in play who has a bunch of boost counters. I rolled the boost counters, and that was the only reason I was even competitive at that sudden turn, because they had anchored daughters and stuff. They had big stuff, right? So I had a boost counter at Asmodeus, and I was like, I'm gonna roll a Nevenka. If I hit a 6, I don't change the stats, and based on the stats right now, I win 1, he wins 1, and we tie on the 3rd. And we go to a second tiebreaker round. But I have an anchored Asmodeus. Okay. So I'm like, that's good. If I roll a 2 through 5 based on the stats right now, I win the game, because I win everything. I win the one we're tied and the one, I win the one we're tied on. The other one didn't matter. Then I'm 2 to 1. So I win. Obviously, if I roll a 1, I reserve Asmodeus.
Yeah.
And it's not like I could have targeted anything smaller, because we were tied as it was. Like, I targeted the Asmodeus because you go for broke, right? So it was a 5 out of 6 chance to win the game effectively. The 1 in 6 was like, I probably win. The 2 through 5, I win. And then on a 1, I lose the game. I rolled a 1.
No.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, so obviously this won't roll a 1. Roll.
Gets a 1.
Well, good game. We couldn't believe it. It was insane. And when we ended the round, Nestor was like, our matchup against Muda is pretty good. And I agree with him. Like, I think the matchup against the Muda deck with the Lyra deck is 60-40 maybe in Lyra's favor. I think it's pretty solid. Muna can get some strings of anchors that can be like really obnoxious to deal with, but Paint Prison is a really good card in that matchup. And your stats can be competitive too if you play in the right spots. Again, avoiding spots where your 0 is going to be a liability. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be. And a bunch of our team actually, I think we went like 2 and 4 that round or something. So a bunch of us lost. It wasn't just me. However, every win added to the score, right? So like, I don't know the math. What would have happened if I had won and everything else stayed the same, but it all came down to that die roll. And we ended up placing 4th. We ended up placing 4th of the factions because of that, I think, which was the highest Lyra had achieved that entire weekend. It was the highest Lyra had achieved. So I felt pretty good about that. Nestor and I had a goal, which is to not place last with Lyra, and we honestly crushed it. We dominated it. I was so proud of our team. We had some new players who learned a lot of strategy and hope they like locked in, and they're like, oh, this is really cool. I like this faction. I like this game. Because once you really get in, you can see, wow, their decisions are really deep and interesting a lot of the time, and they radiate out from small decisions you make early on too.
100%.
And
I was telling some people at the card shop that were interested, that had heard the game and haven't played it yet. I told them they should come by and I'll demo it to them. But that was one of the main facets. I told them, I was like, one of the reason I love this game a lot is it's like learning how to play, super easy, super simple to play, but its decision tree is deceptively deep for a player who is looking for that competitive edge. There's a lot of nuanced decision making that has big impact in your gameplay that, if you're brand new and you just want to slam cards down, you can have fun slamming cards down. If you're like us and you're thinking 4D chess style, there's enough room here for you to do full 4D chess on your opponent.
Yeah.
So
it was so much fun. It was like one of the moment of Gen Con with me was that damn die roll that it all came down to. And it was so funny after me pushing to everyone, it looks like a random faction, but it's really all about strategy. And I go like, well, I either win or lose based on the result of this die roll. So I lost. Yeah, so that was the faction event. It was crazy fun. The drafts were also super cool. I did not open any uniques. Again, these were retail boosters, so uniques were a lot less common, but it was really fun to see the people opening their first uniques next to me. I still really enjoyed that. People drafting go like, gonna take that. Like, yeah, I bet I know what that is. It's got a gold banner on it. And yeah, like the staff kept walking around being like, did anyone pull uniques? I want to see uniques. Like, let's check the uniques out. The first event I drafted let's see. Ortis Axiom something. It was a deck that ended up being, it was a half of an idea. It was one of those kind of draft decks where I had some interactions with landmarks and tokens that I was trying to leverage. I had some like sacrifice stuff, and I was trying to string it together. It was like, it was playing Sierra and Oddball, and it like kind of worked. It wasn't terrible. It also wasn't incredible. And I went 1 and 2 with it. I think I went 1 and 2 with it. So I didn't get any packs for that one. And then my second draft, I had the coolest deck. It was once again, I draft Ortis and Axiom, this time with Lyra as my third one. And this time I was drafting Bash. I was on Subhash and Marmo. Subhash having the ability to noon, pay 1, and reserve a card to make a Brass Bug. And I had so many sweet interactions. I had Capelias, who are, when you reserve her from hand, you get to put her out into play for free asleep. I had things like what's it called? Paper Kite or something. The Ortis card. It's an Ortis card that just has a support ability to discard it to make a 1/1 soldier. So in this deck, it was pay 1 to make a 2/2 and a 1/1.
That's so wild.
Right? It's like, this isn't bad. This is kind of cool. And then I had multiple cards that had support, make a landmark cheaper, and some landmarks that I could either put in to support with Subhash, or turn 1, make the landmark cheaper, and then play like a 4-cost landmark turn 1 or a 5-cost landmark turn 2 using not turn 1, turn 2. I could put it in turn 1, and then turn 2 I could play a Brassbug Hive for 4 mana by making it cheaper. And I didn't give up anything turn 1. I played a 2/2/2 that turn. So yeah, I mean, like, it had some really cool, fun interactions. And then it had I don't remember its name now, Nancy or something. Maybe that was it. It's the card that says when played, I get boosts equal to the number of cards in your reserve. So you can, with Subhash, it's pretty easy to get to 3+ cards. So he's a really cheap, really huge guy. He becomes like a 2-cost 5/5/5 or something if you set that up. The deck was just doing really, really fun stuff. I ended up, so I played 1 round. I won that round, and then I conceded to give the round to my opponent because I had to leave. And the reason for that was that we had a special content creator invitational event for Star Wars Unlimited, which I'm going to get blasted about by Eric again. I'm sorry, but
bailing on Altered for Star Wars yet again.
It was the content creator special event that I had to go to. So it was a work reason, more or less, that I had to do that. And I felt so bad because, like, this deck is so much fun. I just want to play this deck right now. But I bailed on it, and then later on I played against Corgan and got to show him my deck, and it was so sweet. The deck was so cool. So my takeaway is that and I'm still recovering from my usual post Gen Con illness as well. Yeah. So my takeaway from everything was that Altered was super fun. Faction event was crazy fun. Draft is such a fun format for Altered. I am so excited to do more drafting as well. We'll definitely be trying to run some drafts when we get our retail product in. Retail is just a little more
Balanced.
honed, like it's a little more normal.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter stuff can be kind of crazy if you draft it, I think. But
I'm gonna try to see if we can do a draft for our launch event here. The wrench in the plan is gonna be they have Kickstarter product only right now. So
yeah. Well, I don't know. It's probably will still be really fun to do.
yeah.
But yeah, that was those are kind of all the events, and then hanging out with Loki, meeting the team, meeting people like Nestor and Pilgrim, Laushi Mahan, met them as well. They're a member of the Exalts team, who also got to guest opponent in one of my videos in the past gameplay videos. Everyone I met was so cool. So many new people exploring the game. Demos were full the entire weekend. Every time we walked by Altered, every table packed, people waiting. People wanted to try the game. People were really excited. Yeah, it was awesome, dude. It was so much fun. And I was so sad you weren't there.
I know. I love to hear that the game is like blasting. That's what I was really hoping for. I'm also very sad that I was unable to make it. Next year I'm hoping I will make it.
Next year you are required to make it. I'm not even saying you're hoping to. You're required to be there, Jordan. You're not allowed to miss it this year.
Barring like a health issue, I will be there next year.
Okay. All right. You all heard it. You have to hold him accountable now.
Oh, sorry. Barring a health issue or like financial catastrophe, like I lose my job or something, and then
no, the main deck Kickstarter we'll do a main deck Kickstarter to get Jordan to Gen Con. It'll be fine. Don't worry.
Or maybe maybe by this time next year I'll be full-time content creator.
Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, so that was Gen Con. That was Altered. Altered, I think is doing incredible. Oh, I want to mention this too. I have noticed, as I sort of suspected I would see, but there is an uptick on comments on our previous Altered videos now, which is the sign that was important, because if we went through Gen Con and we didn't see something like that happening, that would mean it was just kind of flashing the panning there a little bit and people weren't really like digging into it afterwards or anything. But
yeah, they'd stop into it and then be disinterested and then move on to whatever the next booth had to offer, kind of deal. Yeah, but that is a good sign, because it means at least a fair portion of the Gen Con people are like, yo, I want to consume more of this sick new game.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great. It's great to see. Altered is awesome. I want to just mention that we got a roadshow and I ran it last weekend, last Friday. We had all seats full. We had people coming in still, to learn the game. We demoed to people who didn't sign up, who didn't get promos. And the fun surprise that we had that day was that, our product miraculously arrived that day, the shop's product. So they shipped all the retailers out before like personal backings, in the US. And the day of the roadshow, boss pulls me aside and, hey, the Altered just came here. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, that is perfect. So we got it on the shelf. Yeah. And everyone got to learn the game. Was like, now, if you enjoyed this, you can go buy a product right now and start playing. And the air in the shop was it was so exciting there, because so many people, they demo the game and were like, okay, yeah, they were at least like, I'm going to buy starter decks. But we had people who were like, oh, I'll go grab a box. Sure. Like, give me a box. Let's go. And they were cracking open their uniques. These are Kickstarter boxes now, right? So these were jam packed with uniques. And everyone was like, oh, look at this one. Look at my unique. Like, look at this thing. This is so good. I saw some pretty good uniques. I saw some really cool Krakens. I saw, Adam in our local group opened, the best monkey I've seen by far so far, the best Sun Wukong that I've seen. He's nasty. I was told, like, you all enjoy, I've got my Kickstarter stuff coming, but by the end of the night I was like, I can't wait anymore. I bought 3 packs just to see, and I got a unique Copelia, who I think is also pretty cracked. So I'm really, really pumped about that. And sorry, not just Copelia, Muna Copelia. I was like, it is a sign, baby. Let's go.
Did anyone at the shop pull a God pack?
Yes, I saw 2. golden boosters
Two of
opened, I
them?
believe. Yeah, I saw. Our store owner who was opening some that he wanted for himself got one for his collection, and because our store owner, by the way, is very into card games and is not just buying and flipping stuff. He bought Altered because he thought this looks really cool and wants to play it. So that's awesome. And then I think Corgan opened one as well, if I remember.
Nice.
I think so.
We love to hear it.
Yeah. So that was really, really super exciting. And there were even really fun things like, so the Kickstarter boosters have a rare chance at a promo card, right? One of the full arts. So one of the guys I demoed it to, he played Lyra, and he finished the Lyra game. He was like, I really like this faction. Can I get one of these promos? And I was like, no, we don't have Nevenka. We the promos we're giving out are it's not a rock. It's it's Fen and Crowbar. Fen and Crowbar is the Lyra promo this time for this run, right? I believe.
It's the
So
same
I
ones
was
as
like,
it
yeah,
was the beginning of the year, yeah. Because it's
it's
for the full
the
year, full year. Yeah.
it's
So yeah,
the
it's
in
Crowbar.
it's
It's Finn and Crowbar.
I believe that's right. Yeah, if I remember. Anyway, I was like, no, so it's not Nevenka, right? I was like, no, sorry, we don't have that one. That one's actually really expensive now because it was the 2023 run, and those are hard to find. And he's like, oh, dang. And I was like, I'm gonna open a bunch. If I get one, I'll let you know. Like, no. Then I was like, no, wait, I won't, because that's one of the ones I don't have. So sorry. And I was demoing the game to our next batch, and he walks over to me. He's like, dude, look. He pulled the Nevenka promo.
Let's go.
Out of his booster. I was like, that's so rare. How did you pull the exact one you wanted?
Oh.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. So anyway, that was our roadshow. That was a ton of fun. That was Gen Con. I don't know. I think that's what I got. That's kind of the update.
All right. I guess a question for myself now that I'm kind of thinking, now that we are on the mentions of roadshows. Roadshows are specifically like pre-launch, right?
Yeah.
Do they have any plans for like post-launch, like go to some stores that they had one before? Because I was probably just going to plan with the store to run our own demo day, but I was wondering if there's any official like touching base with stores that they went early in the year before people were really known about the game. Because now that the game is more out there and we have product in store, like I said, I plan on running a demo day at our shop again, just to kind of be like, hey, people, this game is still here. It's sick. You should try it. And now you can actually buy it.
I haven't heard of any like specific plans to do that. And honestly, in the TCG space, it's not super common to keep things like that going after launch, because after launch, your shops really want to focus on their active players right away to kind of cater to them, to make sure they're getting what they need. So I mean, it's a good idea though. Like, it's always good to keep efforts going around, reducing attrition, keeping new people coming in. So maybe someone will listen to this and have an idea or I mean, I know they're running roadshows through launch. I guess I'm not positive that they're totally done at launch, but maybe there'll be some more ongoing. Like, very likely it'll at least be something where they'll have like demo decks at distributors that you can order in some kits with or something. But often in TCGs, it's kind of like run your own thing if you want to do that.
Yeah, I primarily pose the question because, as we know, in pretty much every facet of TCGs, Altered is not like other TCGs.
No, that's very true. That's a good point. Yeah, it could be different. There could be something else, but not that I know right now.
But yeah, so Dan, is there anything else you want to let us know? Any other things you might have forgot about the epic Gen Con Altered experience this year?
I think I covered everything, and I think we're just going to be heading towards a little bit of an earlier close for this episode, because the big thing we're waiting on now, Jordan, is for our product to arrive. We will have a live stream on Main Deck. I have a plan to do actually live opening of product. So a lot of people aren't really attempting that. I am an idiot, so I'm going to attempt to make it work.
Plus, I have some ideas that would make it work and be flowed and easy to.
I have an idea to do it. I'm pretty sure that it's going to work. So stay tuned for that. We'll announce when that is. I can't obviously announce that until I know when I'm getting my product, and I don't know that yet. So
yeah, I haven't gotten my message either. I saw Main Deck Jason posted that he got confirmation from the shipper that his is en route, but I think he didn't get the deck box stuff. So
that was his order from our LGS, actually.
Oh, I thought that was from. Okay, gotcha.
So he ordered from our LGS, which I am the shipper for. So I told him that it's en route.
Okay, I just saw him post the picture and I just assumed that it was his Kickstarter on the way.
Yeah. No, he's yep. I think he ended up not being able to back the Kickstarter at the time, so he just got stuff from the shop instead, which is just as good because he opened up some really sweet uniques anyway.
All right.
So more to come. Just stay tuned. We'll have that live stream. We'll have another episode of Fleeting Thoughts, obviously in a couple weeks. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about our product at that point, and then we'll be moving on to the full release.
Yeah, full speed ahead now. The train's never gonna stop.
That's right.
But thank you everyone for joining us. That was our Fleeting Thoughts. Thank you so much. I accidentally said thank you twice, but you guys.
It's always good to thank multiple times.
Thank you all. The double.
I'm gonna thank you too. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Thank you.
And we look forward to speaking with you guys in about 2 weeks. Have a fantastic rest of your day, night, morning, or evening. Goodbye.
Thank you.